go. Right. Good morning, Mr. Erasmus. Thank you for joining us today. We are very privileged to have you with us. Good morning.
Morning. Thanks for having me. Look forward to the chat.
Mm. Right. Steve, do you want to start us off?
Yes, Paarl Boys have been a dominant school now for so many years now. Without giving away your secrets, what would you say is the main reason for Paarl Boys' dominance in schoolboy rugby, always being in the up and about in the top five?
Oh, Steve, thank you very much. I think, Paarl Boys are traditional boys' schools, one of the traditional boys' schools with traditional values. And I think that remains a secret within our schooling system in South Africa is to maintain those traditional schoolboy values.
Absolutely.
At the same time, within our rugby group, we always talk about creating better men, men that
Yes.
are going to be one day good fathers, and good husbands to their wives. And I think, once you get that in place, rugby is sort of a byproduct of a good culture. And I think that's something that we really focus on a lot with the
Wow.
boys.
Brilliant.
I think rugby sort of brings you into the room, and we know that it's a high performance environment in schools at the moment, whether people like to admit it or not. It is a high performance environment. But along with that, we've still got to remember that we're working with boys and that values
Yes.
and building their character remains primary focus.
Brilliant.
And how long have you been coaching at Paarl Boys?
This is year number 12 at Paarl Boys.
Wow.
Before this, I was at Glenwood High School for 13 years.
Right.
And before that, obviously, Grosvenor Boys, and then also had a very short stint at Westville Boys with the under 14s. So,
Okay.
yeah, collectively, basically around 28 years now in schoolboy rugby and rugby in South Africa.
Wow. Incredible.
Right.
Incredible.
Steve?
Yes, we all know about the rivalry between yourself and Paul Roos, and then of course the big one, Paul Gim. What makes the derby between yourself and Paul Gim such an iconic derby? We all know it's always about 20,000 people that always comes to watch it, more than 20,000. What makes it so iconic, besides the history between the two?
I think it's obviously, once again, when you talk about the traditional rivalry between Paarl Boys and Paarl Gymnasium, it's not just about the rugby. Obviously, the rugby is the pinnacle on the
Yeah,
final day, but it's the whole week of all the old boys sort of coming together. And I think, what's always amazing for me is to see the amount of old boys that come in for that game. So the alumni sort
yes,
of have the opportunity to rekindle some memories and have a lemonade together and a coffee. And obviously these old boys compete at every single level in that week,
yeah,
from, but basically everything they do, they compete against each other, and the town sort of comes alive. I always tell people there's something that you have to come and experience. The town is split in two, so you've got north and south, green and blue, and you
wow,
choose your colors. The businesses don their colors. They sort of choose who they support. Some are still sitting on the fence and do both. But it just creates such an awesome environment when you walk around town. You walk into the local Checkers or Spa, and there's a cupcake with a player's face on it, or the colors of the team, or whatever they support. So they really go all out, and I think it's an amazing opportunity for Paarl as a town and a community to just come together over that time and celebrate what's been happening for over 100 years. So, that makes it really special. Like I say, is the rugby on the Saturday afternoon in the final game is really just the cherry on top of an amazing week spent together, celebrating friendship and rugby and sport.
brilliant, absolutely.
And from a coaching perspective, where are you during the match? Are you next to the field? Are you behind the posts? Or do you have like a coach's box? Or are you sitting in the pavilion?
No, I actually like to stand behind the poles. So I like to see the pattern of play and how players are moving. So I like to be sort of close and on the field. Yeah, so into schools, obviously we have to stand on the side, and that's quite frustrating. But with all the other games, I try and get in behind the poles so that I can see patterns of play.
Right. Steve?
As I say, there's a new kid on the block, Stellenberg, and we all know they've recently beaten Paul Roos this week in 2010. What would you say is the reason for the emergence of Stellenberg now as suddenly as a huge contender now for the Paarl schools and Great College and for the top crown now to be the top crown in SA schools?
Yeah, look, I wouldn't call them new kids on the block. Obviously, they are a very young school, and I think they've done exceptionally well to build up their rugby program. They have a good
Yeah.
bunch of people together. Divan Butt is a good man, and then a guy like Andras Molnar, who we are actually quite good friends. I've got a lot of respect for him, and I think people like Duppy and a whole bunch of other of their staff that have been around for a while have worked so hard, tirelessly at putting Stellenberg at the pinnacle of sort of schoolboy rugby in that area. So yeah, they deserve what's coming their way at the moment, and I'm really happy for them that they're doing well. It's always good
Mm.
for South African rugby or world rugby to not just have
Yeah,
4 or 5 people that continuously do well, but have a
absolutely.
competitive
Correct.
environment where everybody can
Yes.
measure themselves week after week. So yeah, I'm really happy for the guys from Stellenberg. I told Divan, hopefully he'll watch this, but I told him as well, when they come to Paarl, I won't allow him to park in the school. I'll make him walk extra far because he's just got that little bit more pressure when he comes to Brook Street. But yeah, I think they've done really well playing against all the big schools at the moment. They've got a good group of players. And like I said, I always associate myself with good people. And I think, even their players and the team and everybody at their school, they're good people. They work hard, so they deserve what's coming.
Right.
Brilliant.
And just another question, because we know Paarl Boys High and Paarl they are the two biggest schools within the area. What about
Mm.
the smaller schools? Do you guys have like a program, or do you guys try to reach out to the smaller schools and try and bring them up a level or two?
Yeah, so I think it's you've got to be careful to say smaller schools
Yes.
because a lot of these schools and numbers are bigger than what we are by far. But I
Mm.
think, yeah, we've always had a healthy relationship with Klein Nederburg, New Orleans, Polish Joubert. We sort of invite them always in the beginning of the season. We play against each other. We have an opportunity to sort of have a run. And yeah, I mean, obviously, huge amount of talent in those schools that we also that we like to compete against. So,
Mm.
but it is something I do feel that we can all obviously invest in a little bit more and
Yes.
spend a bit more time with the coaches and with the players.
Right.
I think it's quite challenging because of our season and how we move and the amount of traveling and work that we do. So it is quite hard to spend time with him, but it is definitely something that I must agree with that we can do a lot better.
Right. Steve?
Um, the competition in the Western Cape is quite amazing. Besides the Paarl teams and Paarl Rus, there's also teams like Rondebosch, Wynberg, Sachs, Bishops. And you can also see the results, when Western Province schools play in the Craven League. I think for the past couple of years, Western Province have now been consistently the best team in South Africa for schools. What would you say is the reason for the almost domination of the Western Province schools at this stage in school rugby?
Yeah, I think it's exactly as what you mentioned now. That's the secret is that, week after week here, we play about 15 to 19 games in the season, and every single weekend it's a test match.
Mm.
Wow.
Everybody is highly competitive. The competition is at a very high level.
Mm.
So, with
Wow.
all respect to all the other regions and provinces, I think maybe occasionally you might have a game in those provinces where you could just breathe a little bit or have the feeling like you can breathe a bit, with all due respect,
Yeah,
like I said, to everybody else. But I think the feeling here in the Western Cape is that weekend after weekend, you've sort of just got, these very intense matches. And I think that brings
brilliant.
the best out of all the teams all the time. So when Western Province goes to Craven Week, I think they are used to all the players that play in that team are used to that sort of competition, that environment, and the tempo and intensity with what the game is played at provincial level.
Brilliant.
And what kind of rugby do you want the boys to play? A more expansive game or a more forward game? Or do you decide, okay, we are playing Paarl Boys next weekend, watch the videos, and according to that, do a game plan, or how do you go about doing that?
Also, again, I think therein lies the secret of why schoolboy coaches are so good at what they do. You know,
Mm,
year after year, you've got a new batch of players. So
mm,
I think when you look at the top schools and how they move, you have to sort of think out the box every single year because you've got to
Yes.
adjust your
mm,
pattern of play to the talent that you have. So
mm.
you
Yeah.
can't play the same as what you played last year because you won't get good results. You have to sort
Okay.
of adapt to key players and talent that you have. So I think for me, we always talk about when you look at statistic in schoolboy rugby and how it's changed, the amount of ball and play time, the tempo and the quickness of some of it.
Mhm,
We would sort of like try and keep on moving towards creating that environment where the players are using a lot of skill in scoring tries,
mm.
because that is what people really want to come and see.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I think, I think obviously with due respect at a higher level and at senior level, when I used to be involved at Super Rugby and Currie Cup level, you sort of go out there and everything is about, you know, grinding it down and winning in inches and
Yeah.
meters. And
Mm,
I think we mustn't lose the ability for schoolboys to run with the ball and to score
mm.
tries from
Absolutely.
anywhere and sort
Yes.
of have a go.
Yeah.
We've got to respect that people at high level at URC now and everywhere else, the
Mm,
demand for winning is the currency, you know.
Oh,
So
yeah.
everybody wants to sort of win, and however that can happen, you've got to make it happen. So a lot of times people walk away from the games and go like, yes, well, I just watch a kicking game. Well, if that's what it takes to sort of win games at that level, I guess that's what those guys have to do. But definitely at schoolboy level, we've got to combine that to allow the boys to play with what skill they have that you pick them with. It's always sad for me to see when players out of schoolboy rugby get contracts because of their ability at schoolboy level, and then
mm.
you never see him play like that again after school. He sort of
Yeah.
plays a different game pattern. So yeah, I think we're very blessed with that in South African schoolboy rugby that the boys still play with it, and
Yes.
especially in the
Absolutely.
Western Cape, yeah, you know, we like to throw it around. You know, you've got traditional schools like Bishops that have been known to run the ball from behind their try lines, and I think
Yeah.
that's exciting for the game.
Right. Steve?
With the rise of technology, and now I don't want to give my age away, but I remember in the 90s when I played at a school called Swanswijk for the under 15-18. For us, it was just a case of you run onto the field. You have about two practices a week, and then you go and play on the Saturday. But now with technology, it's a completely different ball game. But my question that I'm quite curious about, how much of the technology, like video sessions and analytical sessions, do you guys use on schoolboy level with the kids?
Yeah, Steve, it's quite interesting, you know, when you have conversations with people. Excuse me. I think when you have conversation with people, they don't quite know what goes into a week with these boys. I
Mm,
think
Yeah,
that's why we're also sensitive about the criticism that teams and players take often and coaches on social media after schoolboy games because, you know, in a typical week, these boys would go through a Monday session where they have video analysis. They sort
yeah,
of have a flush in the gym. You know, we use a GPS system that's got a live coding element to it. So we can
yeah,
see in the game where the guys are tiring and how much output and they're sort of putting into the game. Then all the players are individually code. Opposition is code, which means that we analyze and cut their specific elements
yeah,
of the games out for the players. The players get a presentation from the attack coach, from the defense coach, from the kicking coach, from the set piece coach. So players are working through a lot of information. They're digesting a
yeah,
lot of information. There's a lot of statistic on their movement, how fast they move, what they do. And yeah, I guess you know, people would probably be watching this and then there'd be a lot of criticism saying, well, you know, they're still schoolboys. Why is
mm,
there all of that pressure on them?
yeah.
But I think like everything in life is there are some guys that are talented at something and can be good at it. So I think they probably should get the opportunity to be better in an environment where they
yeah.
can better themselves
Yes.
so that they can make
Absolutely.
a career from it because that is the way that it's going. So
Yes.
and I think that's what we all try and do with those high performance environments. We try and adapt our technology to serve the team, not pressurize the player.
Yeah,
So every player, to create norms and expectations for players to grow, you need to be able to show them. I mean, we all know we are people, we are born like that. We all want to see something before we believe it. So,
Right.
we use analysis and all our tools to better the players, not to put them
Yes.
under more pressure.
No, that's actually very true, because you need to wake up every morning to say, how can I better myself from yesterday?
Yeah.
So I think that is a very good approach to do. And as you said just now, um, during the Easter festivals, we attended St. John's. Um,
Mm.
Mm,
Grey College lost um,
mm,
against Westlake and or against Nudgee, and social media went in an absolute frenzy about this. And how do you um, talk to the players afterwards? So, for example, if you guys lose against Paul Ruus or Stellenberg or maybe an unknown school, and then social media goes in a frenzy, how do you navigate all of this negativity to tell the boys, all right, you know what, you've lost, don't worry, next week we carry on? How do you navigate that?
Oh, we actually had a video session yesterday, and some of your video sessions are quite hairy sort of encounters because, along with high performance and setting goals for yourself as a team, you've also got to assess those goals, and then you've got to be honest about where you are as a team. So
Mm.
I always say to the players that it's never a personal attack, and I don't think that
Yeah.
any video session or any sort of review or preview should be a personal attack, but rather a sort of very zoned in environment where you go like, okay, well, this wasn't good enough, and this is what we didn't plan or that we didn't sort of play towards. Um, I do think, like I say, I always tell my players, I'm the same as a coach. You don't read social media. In the time where
Yeah.
you're doing well, everybody will sort of hero you up and say you're amazing
Yeah.
and you're the best in the world. And then when you lose, everybody tells you, the same people tell you how
Yeah.
terrible you are.
Yeah.
So we always talk about the same person that heroes you, that's the same person that will zero you.
Yeah.
So, we don't rely on it. Our pillars in our team is faith, family, and team. So we sort of
Yeah.
rely that what we're doing is the right thing and what we have to
Yes.
do and be better at what we do. Everybody sort of comes to watch us so that we can inspire them by the way that we play. And I think that's
Absolutely.
where we are very honest about what we want to achieve and what we do, but it's never personal. And I always say to the guys, when you feel it's personal and you feel it's pressure, it's not about that. It's about creating a standard that we're all happy with and that we all want to sort of strive for. So yeah, when it comes to Grey College, along with us and some of the other schools, we see this traditional strong rugby schools and rugby environments. So people get very passionate as what they
Yeah.
do with the Springboks and their favorite URC team and their
Yeah.
favorite club team. They all want to see them win because that makes their weekends better, and everything else. So we understand that people are passionate about it, but I always say to everybody, yeah, these are young men. Some of them are 16,
Yes.
turning 17. They are learning the trade, and we all
Yeah.
understand that everybody wants to win, but winning can be categorized or analyzed in different levels. There's
Yes.
some boys that
Absolutely.
are emotionally maturing, they're becoming better young men. So let's celebrate also that part about who they
Yeah.
are and what they're becoming, instead of always just looking into the result.
Yes. Correct. Steve?
You raise a very important point about pressure and professionalism. Even us as promoters have been criticized on our Facebook group once or twice by the parents saying that we are putting too much pressure on the schoolboys. So the question is, how does one keep the balance between professionalism? Because schoolboy rugby has become more and more professional in a way, and also encouraging the boys to enjoy the game. Because there's a fine line between
Yeah.
that line.
So I have numerous people that will come and ask advice on starting new rugby groups and blogs and
Yeah,
sites like yourself, and sort of that's why I always agree to talk on these things because I think it's important for yourselves that sort of go into the schoolboy environment to be sensitive and also
Mm.
talk
yeah,
about and sort of educate people about what is going on there. And I
Mm.
always say to guys that have websites is that you have the power to delete negative things about players
yes,
and to
Absolutely.
promote the goodness about what schoolboys are also doing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think we quickly forget, I've got children as well. We quickly forget that if somebody would talk like that about your son or your daughter, it wouldn't make you happy.
Yeah.
But we tend to be quite satisfied and happy to talk about other people's children the way that we want to. And that's sort of been my thing is that everybody is leaning into the schoolboy product and sort of getting something out of it. But in
Mm.
order to get something out of it, you also got to put something back into it.
Oh,
And
Yes.
I think
yes.
that's where people have to talk about when you think about the schoolboy rugby coaches and the time that they put in and the investment that they put into some people's sons. I always say to my team, my son finished school last year, he was in matric. I spend more time with everybody else's children than I did with my son in his final year. And
Mm.
that is
Mm.
something that I deeply regret often. And still, with all of that, there was a lot of criticism about within the team and how things were done, not necessarily from within our player, our parent corps, but from outside.
Yeah.
So I think before people talk and before people weigh in on the schoolboy product, they've got to just sort of sit back a little bit and think about where schoolboy rugby has gone in the past few years, what
Mm.
Yeah.
people are doing to promote it in a positive environment, and then
Yes.
equally to be
Absolutely.
positive about that as well. I know that we're never going to keep everybody happy, but I
No.
think it's always important to know exactly what goes on before you criticize. The second thing is to think about what you say because boys read all of this.
Mm.
And
Yes.
we've had numerous boys that sort of come back and they just go like, maybe I shouldn't play anymore because this person on social media thinks that I'm terrible. And
Mm.
people are quick to sort of comment on people that they don't even know. They haven't even
Oh,
met them.
yeah. True.
So your character is all that you have. And when
Yeah.
people start attacking that, it's not in a good space. So schoolboy rugby should be exactly that. Schoolboy it has become competitive. It has become a high performance environment. Understand that everybody's under a lot of pressure, and all they're trying to do is go out on a Saturday, play their absolute best, and make their school proud. Because that's the
Mm.
first thing that we all want to do. We want to make our school proud. We want to give glory to God with the amount of tries that we're scoring for Him, and we want to try and inspire people. Does that make us
Absolutely.
perfect? No. Are we going to make mistakes? Yes.
Of
Is a
course.
boy going to swear on the field? Probably. Is a coach going to throw his bottle on the side? Of course.
Yeah.
But I always say to people, when you look back at your own life at a day at work, if I had to walk into anybody's work and just sit there for an hour and watch what you do, I'd probably also be able to criticize that environment.
Yes.
Mm. Mm.
And
Correct.
For sure.
that is the easiest part is to sort of be negative and criticize environments instead of
Absolutely.
sort of going like, well, Gray versus Nudgee. It was an amazing schoolboy rugby game. Were
Yes.
the Grey boys tired? Yes. Do you think that they gave less? Absolutely not. Do you
Of
think
course
that
not.
Yanni, as the head coach, did not prep as hard as what he could? Definitely he did.
Mm.
So did he
Yeah.
want to lose? Nobody wants to lose. But at the end of the day, that's what we're in. We're in an environment where
Absolutely.
somebody's going to walk away winning, somebody's going to walk away losing. And the way that we pick the boys up from either one of those scenarios is what matters the most because it's going to teach them character and resilience.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, when we were at school, myself and Steve, we were lucky to have five open teams that year in our matric year. And knowing your fifth team in that kind of a school is, you know, not very serious. And we just played because we wanted to. And we absolutely loved our last season, although out of the, I think, 10 games we played, we only won three, but we had such a blast. And I think this is also and one of the reasons why we started this whole journey is because we are very passionate about schoolboy rugby, but we also
Mm.
want to teach the boys and the parents and everyone out there, let them just enjoy it. They are still at schoolboy level. And whether they win, whether they lose, it doesn't
Mm,
matter. And I think
mm,
that's also something we are trying to foster because we know parents want the best for their children, but sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. And
mm.
it's a very fine line, I think. And even though you coach the first team, so how do you tell them, all right, we are playing against Paarl on Saturday. Just go out, do your best, and enjoy. How do you carry that message over to the boys?
I think, once again, when we go back to our pillars of our culture, faith, family, and team, we often talk about, so in the morning before a game, we'll have what we call family time, familia time. And
Mm,
that's sort of our Bible study time where we just spend sort of time and
Yeah.
reflect on the pressures that we've had the week and, what's happened. And we sort of tie a biblical story to that and try and inspire. Like we're talking about Nehemiah now building the wall in 52 days. And I was saying to the boys, last year Paarl Boys was the #1 school in South Africa. And this year
Mm.
we've sort of been just struggling to find our feet and a little bit of our tempo and getting back into how we do things. And we sort of relate back to the story of Nehemiah building that wall in 52 days. And if
mm,
you know that story, it talks about a person that's in a king's courtyard and hears about
Yeah.
people in distress and
right.
then takes the responsibility upon himself to go and build a wall that will protect other people.
Yes.
And we talk about within the team about how that is relevant to our team at the moment because it's not going to take one person to build the wall, but one person has to start that act. And I
Right.
think that's what we talk to the boys about is that, we might not, we want to win all the time. I mean, obviously, we want to be the top school in South Africa again. I mean,
Of
everybody
course.
aspires to do that. The
Of
boys
course.
want to make a career out of rugby, they want to do everything else. But there's a bigger story to this. There's an opportunity for boys here that have a social media following, that have other young players that look up to them. I mean, Saturday again, we drew with Oakdale, and yet there were people on the field taking photos, little boys from our primary school and other schools taking photos with our players. And
Right.
I'll say to the boys, that opportunity creates the window for you to
Absolutely.
inspire other people and to share your faith because God uses us all in different ways. So whether we win or
Absolutely.
lose, somebody is going to sort of walk up and go like, how do you feel about it? And then you have the option to either spit poison or to sort of sow a seed. And that is what we talk about with the boys is like with all the pressure that we're under, including myself, I think in 2024 was a dark space for me. If I can share that part of my heart where, we weren't doing
Mm-mm.
well and we were losing and everybody was sort of like, well, are you still the right guy for the job? Are you still this? You do that. And then you go into a very dark place where you withdraw yourself.
Mm,
But
Yeah.
actually, during that time, it wasn't fun for me and it's not fun for the players because all my pressure sort of goes off onto the team and nobody
Mm-mm.
enjoys it. So
mm,
Yeah.
again, yesterday, even after our tough video session, I go home and I think like, was that good for me? Was it good for the players? Probably not. Are we just focusing on winning? Are we disappointed because we drew a game? There's a lot of things that I reflect on afterwards.
mm,
And today I'll go to my team and say, okay, cool. So yesterday was a really tough day. We spoke hard about it, but today we're
Yeah.
going to have some fun. Let's get back onto the field. Let's let
Brilliant.
let it be the best time of the day when we come to the field, and that includes me. I mean, as I talk here now, I don't talk from a wooden box. I'm talking to myself actually because it's how I feel in my heart today. But
mm,
they are 17-year-old. Yesterday was a tough video session. We spoke hard about effort and players getting in and getting
mm,
stuck in. And is that needed? Yes, it is. But what's the biggest thing here is that we have the opportunity to inspire people and to
mm.
create an environment where, yeah, things can be
Absolutely.
better.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Right. Steve?
My last question to you. I know I'm sure you still got many years left to coach, but when you are on let's say the final day of your last match with the team, what would you like to be remembered for as a coach at Paarl Boys High?
That's quite an easy question because I've thought about that in my head often. I think that
Yeah.
I'd like to come back and people would talk about me as a man that always thought about making the boys better men.
Mm,
I think that one day when I die, Jesus will not ask me about the amount of interschools and games that I won, but the amount of
Yeah.
hearts and people that I brought to him. And yeah,
Brilliant.
that would probably be my #1 thing is that he remembers me for that. So yeah, even in my own personal life at home, I can be a better husband, I can be a better dad, and sort of absorb the pressure better. And I think that remains the focus is that once we work hard at becoming better people, then there's context to the situations that we're in. Um,
Brilliant.
we've got friends now that's struggling with cancer and things are not looking good. And then, we draw a game on Saturday and then Sunday I sit and analyze there and I think I can fix this. I can fix the rugby problem, but I can't fix my friend's wife's problem.
mm,
So there's context to everything in life, and I think we need to sometimes just reflect deeply on what it is. And I mean, people will always go like, oh, whatever. But that is what we have to reflect on. And one day we're
Wow.
all going to kneel in front of the same God, and we're going to have to be accountable for what we did in life. So
Yeah.
am I perfect? No. Are my boys perfect? No. But we've got to keep on inspiring people and being better at what we do.
Right.
Brilliant.
And one final question from me. You are coaching at schoolboy level. Do you want to go back to like URC or Super Rugby, or maybe even take over Russ's job one day? Do you want to do that, or are you happy with schoolboy rugby?
I think there again, God sort of knows my heart is that, we were all made to aspire to be good at everything that we do, to reach the
Mm,
pinnacle of our talent that God has blessed us with. So,
Yes.
in that regard, yes, I would love to be a head coach of a franchise one day and sort of run a team for God there in that environment as well. Not saying that that's not happening, but I think I would love to run that environment, have an opportunity to run that environment. But
mm,
at this stage where I am now, I'm very happy with what I do now.
good.
I constantly, my wife and I pray together about if God wants to open doors, then He will open the right doors at the right time. But
Yes.
until then, I'm supposed to be where I am now. I'm supposed to battle what needs to be battled now. And I need to, with the boys, be a better man and we need to be a better rugby school and be better at
Brilliant.
everything that we do. So where I am right now, I love what I do. I said to the boys on Sunday that I'd not choose any other schoolboy team above them as well. That I believe in them. Their character is unmeasurable at the moment, and now we need to be better at some other things. So it's
Brilliant.
those challenges that God sort of put in front of us with teams. And people always say, "Do you really think God plays chess with rugby teams?" No, I don't think so. But I think that He puts people in different positions at different times in their lives to sort of figure out how good they really are at being able to help somebody else. And I think
Yeah.
that's where we are now. And we want to be a better rugby team. We want to be better men. And yeah, that's sort of where we are now. And keep watching the space.
Yeah.
Great
Thank
stuff.
you.
Thanks.
Right. Thank you very much for your time, and good
Thanks,
luck
guys.
with the rest of the season, and we will be in touch.
Thank you so much,
Look
Shane.
forward to it.
All right.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thanks for what you guys do and all the best. And yeah, be strong and courageous. And may God bless you guys with what you're doing.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
All right. All right.
Cheers. Keep well,
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys.
guys.